Hey Dan, now we return to Chapter 9 after our small cliffhanger. I turned, not needing my eyes to tell me someone else was present. There was a man standing near the left wall, giggling. "Who is it?" I asked, and my voice sounded strange. I realized then that these were the first words I had spoken in a long while. "Escape," he said. "Trying to escape." And he chuckled again. "How did you get in here?" "Walked," he replied. "From where? How?" I struck a match and it hurt my eyes, but I held it. He was a small man. Tiny might be an even better word. He was around 5 feet tall and a hunchback. His hair and beard were as heavy as my own. The only distinguishing features in that great mass of fur were his long hook nose and his almost black eyes, now squinted against the light. "Dworken," I said. He chuckled again. "That's my name. What's yours?" "Don't you know me, Dworken?" I struck another match and held it near my face. "Look hard. Forget the beard and the hair. Add 100 pounds to my frame. You drew me in exquisite detail on several packs of playing cards." "Corwin," he said at last. "I remember you, yes." "I had thought you were dead." "I'm not, though, see?" And he pirouetted before me. "How's your father? Have you seen him recently? Did he put you here?" "Oberon is no more," I replied. "My brother Eric reigns in Amber, and I am his prisoner." "Then I have seniority," he told me, "for I am Oberon's prisoner." "Oh? None of us knew Dad had locked you up." I heard him weeping. "Yes," he said after a time. "He didn't trust me." "Why not?" "I told him I'd thought of a way to destroy Amber. I described it to him, and he locked me in." "That wasn't very nice," I said. "I know," he agreed, "but he did give me a pretty apartment and lots of things to do research with. Only he stopped coming to visit me after a time. He used to bring men who showed me splotches of ink and made me tell stories about them. That was fun until I told a story I didn't like and turned a man into a frog. The king was angry when I wouldn't turn him back, and it's been so long since I've seen anybody that I'd even turn him back now if he still wanted me to. Once—" "How did you get here, into my cell?" I asked again. "I told you I walked." "Through the wall?" "Of course not, through the shadow wall." "No man can walk through shadows in Amber. There are no shadows in Amber." "Well, I cheated," he admitted. "How?" "I designed a new trump and stepped through it to see what was on this side of the wall. Oh my, I just remembered. I can't get back without it. I'll have to make another. Have you got anything to eat, and something to draw with, and something to draw on?" "Have a piece of bread," I said, and handed it to him, "and here's a piece of cheese to go along with it." "Thank you, Corwin." And he wolfed them down and drank all my water afterward. "Now, if you'll give me a pen and a piece of parchment, I'll be returning to my own rooms. I want to finish a book I was reading. It's been nice talking to you. Too bad about Eric. I'll stop back again sometime and we'll talk some more. If you see your father, please tell him not to be angry with me, because "I don't have a pen or parchment," I observed. "Goodness," he said. "That's hardly civilized." "I know, but then Eric isn't very." "Well, what have you got? I prefer my own apartment to this place. At least it's better lighted." "You have dined with me," I said, "and now I'm going to ask you a favor. If you will grant me this request, I promise that I will do everything I can to make things right between you and Dad." "What is it you want?" he asked. "Long have I admired your work," I said, "and there is something I've always desired as a work of your hand. Do you recall the Lighthouse of Cabra?" "Of course. I've been there many times. I know the keeper, Jopin. I used to play chess with him." More than anything else I can think of, I told him. For most of my adult life, I have longed to see one of your magical sketches of that great gray tower. A very simple subject, he said, and rather an appealing one at that. I did some preliminary sketches in the past, but I never got beyond that point. Other work kept getting in the way. I'll fetch you one if you like. No, I said. I'd like something more enduring, to keep me company here in my cell, to comfort me and any others who may later occupy this place. Commendable, he said. What have you in mind as the medium? I have a stylus here, I told him. The spoon was fairly sharp by then. And I'd like to see it traced upon the far wall so I might look at it as I take my rest. He was silent a moment, then. The illumination is quite poor, he remarked. I have several books of matches, I replied. I'll light them and hold them for you. We might even burn some of this straw if we run low. Well, these are hardly ideal working conditions. I know, I said, and I apologize for them, great Dworkin, but they are the best I have to offer. A work of art by your hand would brighten my humble existence beyond measure. He chuckled again. Very well, but you must promise me you'll provide light afterwards so I may sketch myself a way back to my own chambers. Agreed, I said, and I felt in my pocket. I had 3 full packages of matches and part of a 4th. I pressed the spoon into his hand and led him to the wall. Do you have the feel of the instrument? I asked him. Yes, it's a sharpened spoon, isn't it? Yes. I'll make a light as soon as you say you're ready. You'll have to sketch rapidly because my supply of matches is limited. I'll allot half for the lighthouse and the other half for your own business. All right, he said, and I struck a match, and he began to trace lines upon the moist gray wall. First he did an upright rectangle to frame and contain the thing. Then, with several deft strokes, the lighthouse began to appear. It was amazing. Daft as he was, his skill was intact. I held each match at its barest base, spat on my left thumb and forefinger, and when I could hold it no longer in my right, I took hold of the blackened end and inverted it, letting the match burn away completely before I struck another. When the first book of matches was gone, he had finished the tower and was working on the sea and sky. I encouraged him. I murmured appreciation at every stroke. Great, really great, I said, when it appeared to be almost finished. Then he made me waste another match while he signed it. I was almost through the 2nd book by then. Now let's admire it, he said. If you want to go back to your own apartments, you'll have to leave the admiring to me, I told him. We're too low on matches to be art critics at this point. He pouted a bit, but moved to the other wall and began sketching as soon as I struck a light. He sketched a tiny study, a skull on the desk, a globe beside it, walls full of books all around. Now that's good, he said, when I had finished the 3rd pack and was starting on the remaining partial pack. It took him 6 more to finish up and 1 to sign it. He gazed at it while the 8th match burned, but there were only 2 remaining, and he took a step forward and was gone. The match was burning my fingertips by then, and I dropped it, and it sizzled when it hit the straw and went out. I stood there shaking, full of mixed feelings. When I heard his voice and I felt his presence at my side, he was back again. I just thought of something, he said. How can you see the picture when it's so dark in here? Oh, I can see in the dark, I told him. I've lived with it so long that it has become my friend. I see. I just wondered. Give me a light so I can go back now. Very well, I agreed, considering my second to last match. But you'd better bring your own illumination next time you stop around. I'll be out of matches after this. All right. And I struck a light, and he considered his drawing, walked toward it, and vanished once more. I turned quickly and considered the lighthouse of Cabra before the match failed. Yes, the power was there. I could feel it. Would my final match serve me, though? No, I didn't think it would. A longer period of concentration than that was required for me to use a trump as a gateway. What could I burn? The straw was too damp and might not take fire. It would be horrible to have the gateway, my road to freedom, right there with me and not be able to use it. I needed a flame that would last a while. My sleeping roll. It was a cloth liner stuffed with straw. That straw would be drier, and the cloth would burn too. I cleared half the floor down to the bare stone. Then I sought the sharpened spoon to use to cut the liner. I cursed then. Dworken had carried it off with him. I twisted and tore at the thing. Finally it came open, and I pulled out the dry straw from the middle. I made a little heap of it, and I set the liner nearby to use as extra fuel if I needed it. The less smoke the better, though. It would attract attention if a guard passed this way. This wasn't too likely, though, since I had just recently been fed, and I got 1 meal a day. I struck my last match, then used it to set fire to the cardboard book that had continued it. When this got going, I used it on the straw. It almost didn't take. The straw was damper than I'd thought, even though it came from the center of my mat. But finally there was a glow, and then a flame. It took 2 of the other empty matchbooks to achieve this, so I was glad I hadn't thrown them down the john. I tossed on the third, held the liner in my left hand, and stood and faced the drawing. The glow spread up the wall as the flames danced higher, and I concentrated on the tower and recalled it. I thought I heard the cry of a gull. I sniffed, something like a salt breeze, and the place became more real as I stared. I tossed the liner into the fire, and the flames subsided for a moment, then sprang higher. I didn't remove my eyes from the drawing as I did this. The magic was still there, in Dworken's hand, for soon the lighthouse seemed as real to me as my cell. Then it seemed the only reality, and the cell but a shadow at my back. I heard the splashing of waves and felt something like the afternoon sun upon me. I stepped forward, but my foot did not descend into the fire. I stood upon the sandy, rock-strewn edge of the small island Cabra, which held the great gray lighthouse that lit a path for the ships of amber by night. A flock of frightened gulls wheeled and screamed about me, and my laughter was one with the booming of the surf and the free song of the wind. Amber lay 43 miles behind my left shoulder. I had escaped.